Okay, I think we're live.
I agree.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, good.
It looks good.
That means it worked. Okay, hello, people watching. Shall we do introductions first? That's probably a good place to start.
Okay, I'm gonna start. So, hi everyone, my name is Michelle, and probably many of you may know me as Michelle Languages. I'm here today with my friends, and now I'm passing the baton to Julianne.
I'm Julianne. I am known as Leafling Learns on the internet, and I study Japanese and talk about language learning and immersion and self-compassion.
And I am Chloe, also Straw Blondie Studies online. I'm studying various languages. And this is the first episode of Trylingual Talks. Very exciting. And we actually got it to work, which is a miracle. So, yes, this series is going to be basically once a month. We will get together and talk about something to do with language learning. So this episode, with it being January and the new year, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about goals. So that's what we're going to do. So first question, I have a question for everyone, for the collective. Why do you set goals?
Michelle, go for it.
Okay. For me, my thoughts in the meantime, but it's an interesting question because I think that in the language learning community, we think that it's like something that we need. Setting goals is something that we need, is something that must be done, and it's pretty popular, But personally speaking, I think that for me, setting goals is really useful because I tend to be pretty clumsy as a person in general. So my head just goes all over the place and thinks about too many things at the same time. So for me, setting goals is important because I always have like a North Star that I can follow and also keeps me motivated. But at the same time, sometimes it can be a struggle, but definitely the main purpose of setting goals for me is to having a clear direction and not to lose the main track of all the thoughts that come into my mind.
Nice.
I guess I'll go. I don't think it's important to set goals. Especially
controversial.
I know. Here we go. Buckle up, everybody. Especially with language learning, I don't think it's crucial to set goals. It can be beneficial, but I think it has to be done. Not has to be done. I think something to consider when setting language goals is considering not focusing so much on outcome, right? And that's easier said than done for people who are learning languages as a hobby like I am, right? Like I understand that there are circumstances where people are in school, people are trying to hit certain certifications for a job or whatever. So I realize that those outcomes and deadlines may be a little more rigid. But for me, as far as language learning goals go, I often try not to focus on the outcome so much, but I prefer focusing on creating habits and systems rather than being like, I need to be here by this time, like having completed this or that. I prefer to focus on sustainable habit creation.
That's really interesting because I'm probably like in between the two of you. I know what you mean, Michelle, about having direction. And that's kind of why I set goals. Like I so rarely tick off all of my goals. Like I'll set a goal, I'll be like, right, I want to finish this textbook by the end of the month. And I very rarely finish that textbook by the end of that month. But maybe I'll do like 2 or 3 more chapters And that's still progress. That's still more than I would have done otherwise. So it's kind of, I don't know, there's probably not a word for that, but like, other than like failure. But
no,
it's
do
kind of
not
like
say that.
even, yeah, not achieving like the whole thing, but doing like a little bit and still doing a little bit still better than doing nothing. So
exactly. See, I'm on the same page as you, I think, where, so like I really hate, especially for language learning, completion-based goals, because like you don't know how long something's going to take when you're learning a like you don't know how long it's going to take you to learn something, how many times you're going to have to see something to retain it or understand it. So like I prefer, because I have tried I love goals, I love planning, I have tried every single thing that's out there on the internet, but like I don't like saying like I want to complete this textbook. I prefer, like, if anything, time-based goals, where it's like I want to consistently spend X amount of time working on this thing, and if it gets me to the end of the book or whatever the completion is that you're aiming for, like great. If it doesn't, that's fine, because you showed up, and it takes however much time it takes, and times pretend anyhow.
I was just going to say, like, this year I've taken a more time-based approach rather than like a checklist of things to achieve. And obviously I do still, I don't buy a textbook with the intention of never finishing it. Like, I buy a textbook with the intention of working through it. So I still intend to finish it, but I'm not kind of, I guess, limiting myself in that way. Because as well, I find that if I set myself like, I want to finish this textbook, I feel really guilty if I do anything else. But sometimes I just don't want to study with that textbook, so I'm just like, and then I don't achieve my goal, and then I think, oh, that sucks.
Just even though I set my goals and I said I just use them as my main direction, I never meet them. Basically, never achieve my goals. I think the only time I actually achieved a goal was like last year. No, 2020 is already 2 years ago. Wait. Completing the first book of Korean, my Dekiru Kangokugo, in 6 months. That's the only goal that I've ever achieved, I think. Because with Japanese, studying in a university for me is pretty different. I'm not studying it that much for a hobby, but it's part of my major. So I naturally have to meet some deadlines. So for the exam, I have to complete this, and I have to be able to manage and speak or maybe use confidently certain bunke, so certain carriers and stuff like that. But I have to say that with the last 2 years, I think that I learned a lot how to meet the goals and meet the deadlines, but at the same time working with the resources that I like. So mixing the pleasure of learning without deadlines, more like your style, Julianne, more like immersion and just having fun with the language, but at the same time using my syllabus as the main structure of what I have to learn, basically. So doing a mixture of these two approaches.
I think as well, when people set goals, so many people feel like they have to do it. Like, there's no flexibility. And I think being flexible, because I mean, even if I set a goal, I might just change my mind. I just think, actually, I don't think that's going to be helpful for me. I'm going to just scrap that and I'm going to try something else. Or, maybe I wanted to finish like 5 chapters in the textbook, but I decided, actually, I'm not enjoying this textbook. I'm not going to sit here 5 chapters of it. I'm just going to scrap that. I'm going to do something else. And I think especially with language learning and language learning online, there's kind of like this pressure. Like, if you set, because especially when people share their goals, like, you then have to follow through kind of regardless, even if it's not actually serving you in any way.
Yeah, I feel like flexibility is absolutely key, especially, you know, if you're doing this for fun and you don't have like, I really don't like to self-impose rigidity when I don't have to, right? I feel like rigidity for me is the death of like all joy and progress. So I think it's really important to experiment with the how of what you're doing. And I feel like it's so easy for people to make a plan. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm not like generalizing everybody else. I'm talking about myself mostly, but like to make a plan, be like, I'm going to do this, and this, or whatever. And then if you, for whatever reason, can't do this, and this in that order, or you don't want to do this, and this, you don't have the motivation, whatever, it's so easy to just be really hard on yourself. It's so easy to think that you just lack self-discipline and just be like, oh, next week I'm just going to be more disciplined and I'll do it. I'll get it better. But like, I feel like in those moments is when you have to actually check in with yourself, see what's going on, see if this plan actually has anything to do with your reality, or if it's based on some weird idealized version of what you think you should be doing, and adjust accordingly. Like, I just think it can go on for so long when people will just be like, next week will be better, next week I'll try harder, next week I'll try harder. Like, but I think that's when you need to like intervene with yourself and start experimenting and try something different, because you don't have to follow a specific plan most of the time. It doesn't matter. Just try something new.
I think as well, for most of us, language learning isn't kind of the main thing in our lives. Like, it might be our, you know, main hobby or whatever, but it's a hobby. It's not like work, or in a lot of cases people are doing it alongside university. And life, I mean, if the last like 3 years have taught us anything, you can't plan for shit. Like, nothing will go to plan. So like, you've got to be flexible, because maybe, you know, you plan to study 2 hours every day or whatever, but then maybe 1 week you end up working extra and you're too tired to study. But that's okay. Like, you don't have to, you know, be super rigid all the time. You can relax.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just a bad influence. I'm like, just don't even bother studying languages. It's fine.
No, I mean, it's important to take breaks and to take care of yourself and stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Flexibility is the key, because otherwise you will lead yourself to burnout and then you will lose the interest. So it's like a never-ending process. If you just keep doing, and then you never stop yourself, you never take a moment to properly reflect if something is wrong for you, because there might things that might work and things that might not work, because each one of us has its own learning style. And so experimenting, being flexible, these are, I think, the main elements for any language learner, especially nowadays, that we learn that we need these things in our daily lives for everything, I think.
So I know we don't really specifically set goals exactly, but do you guys kind of have a process in place, like for setting goals or making plans or whatever?
I laugh because I made a video about my goals. I should definitely basically delete it, because language-wise, I changed everything. Because I was really worried, and I decided to rush the reflection and setting goals process, because I was really busy with my mind with the university. So because I had to pass Japanese 1, and otherwise it would have been a problem, because not passing could have led to like postponing my graduation. So lots of problems, but luckily I passed. So I just have now to concentrate on 3 exams. Thank you. 3 exams. The other one is Japanese 2, but it's pretty chill in comparison to Japanese 1. And I have to say that this really helped me to even declutter my mind. And I decided to take on a challenge. It's just a challenge for myself, but who knows, probably it might happen or not, because In the video, I said that I wanted to actually be able to pass the JLPT mock exam with an 80% pass. So.
Oh, Michelle's frozen. Oh, Michelle, you cut out. What did you say after 80%?
What? Okay, yeah, I'm noticing that my internet connection is not stable. I hope everything's fine now. But I was saying that, yeah, I wanted to basically pass for the 80% of the exam, so doing good, because the majority of the things that I have to study for my own exam at university are N2 based. So more or less, I'm already there. But I decided that I want to study actually for the N2 exam. And hopefully I'm going to sit it on December 4th at the same university because it's a test center. It depends if it's gonna happen or not, because many things, going on. And they have already canceled it twice in my country, in Italy. So it depends, but I'm still gonna try and challenge myself and do lots of immersion, try and prepare for the JLPT so that I'm done with that. But I want to take on a challenge to really immerse myself with Japanese. Therefore, Korean is going to, even though I've already decided that it's going to be pretty chill this year, so just learning lots of vocab casually with immersion and completing a book, but within a year, so pretty chill. It's going to be even chillier, so I'm not pushing myself that much because I really want to challenge myself without burning out. So just try and understand how I can integrate, immersion with proper studying and mix and match. So I want to experiment, and JLPT is going to be basically my main challenge with that.
Wow, that's exciting. So how I make goals or whatever I do, if I do it. So I'll start by saying I hate SMART goals. I'm disinterested in SMART goals or anything like that. I think they suck the joy out of everything. It's too rigid, don't care, does not motivate me in any way. So none of that. Basically, so I do quarterly goals. Like, let's make it clear, goal stuff does happen in my life. It's just that so I do quarterly goals, and depending on the quarter, I may or may not have a language related goal, right? Like right now, for this quarter, I don't have any explicit goals that have anything to do with language learning. They're about other life things. So, but I have in the past had ones that were language learning related. Like I did actually have a completion based one where I completed Remembering the Kanji, which is a book. I did that in 2020. I've had a goal about increasing my vocabulary when I had pinpointed that as a big struggle for me. I had a goal about doing, well, how did I phrase it? I always phrase things so interestingly that I can't remember what I've said to myself. It was like just creating a habit of doing immersion-based stuff every day. I don't mean like all day or anything. I'm not somebody who's trying to immerse all day long or anything like that, but just creating the habit of doing that. And now that's literally just like my foundation. Like I just have built a foundation of certain Japanese-y activities, right? Because of those past quarterly goals that I had. But anyway, how I make them, basically I do a lot of reflecting, writing stuff out, and I kind of pinpoint things that I'm struggling with right now, things that I think would be cool to do, things that would make something in my life easier. And I kind of, then brainstorm and pick out something that I could create a how and like a system around. I'm more interested in how than why as well. I know everybody says like, find your why. If you're not motivated, find your why. And like, yes, but is my thing. Yes, but I feel like when you're feeling super unmotivated, a why isn't necessarily going to actually help you. Like, even if you have a really good one that's exciting and emotive, like if your how isn't exciting, if your how doesn't resonate with your actual life, like thinking about this why and then still not being able to follow through with doing your goal or whatever, is just going to make you feel worse, I feel like. So I don't focus on why, I don't focus on SMART goals. I just kind of try to create habits and systems that I can be sustainably consistent with, I guess.
And so the how and why thing, it's kind of like that discipline versus motivation argument as well, isn't it? Because you could have all the motivation in the world, but if you don't actually take the time to like learn things, you're not going to learn the language. So I have maybe it's quite a big question. Do you have kind of an ultimate end goal for languages?
It feels like your parents asking you, like, so what are you going to do with your life, kid?
Loaded question.
Michelle, do you want to go first?
For the fact that I don't even have like idea of what I'm gonna do in 8 months after becoming part of the adult world of working people, I have to say that I don't even have any idea where I want to go. The only aspect that I have in my mind is that I want to be able to use the language for the things that I love. So it's like I'm already doing that with English, because of course English is not my first language and I still make lots of mistakes, but I don't give up. It's okay. It's not like I even make mistakes in Italian all the time. But I just enjoy using the language to connect myself with other people, connect myself with other cultures, and just use the language for the things that I love. Like, for example, reading, researching, even Michelle languages is my passion, is what I decided to build, like a community, a project, a blog. I don't know. It's called like this, like, my blogging thing. And I just do that in English because I wanted to connect myself with the rest of the world, meet new people that were like me, because I was feeling like the only one that was really interested in communication, media studies, mixing everything with languages, and talk about my passion for language learning. Now also, studying in general. So studying, for example, or maybe studying in a better way for yourself, because this is, for me, is really important to study, but stay mentally healthy. So I just combine everything that I love, and I do that in English. And I would like to do that with the languages that I love, for example, Japanese. And who knows, maybe not in another life, but I would say in a couple of years, maybe, I don't know, 3-4 years, also add other languages. I'm already feeling a little bit more confident, for example, for Spanish, because I studied that for 5 years and I use it. I don't have maybe the best level at Spanish, but I can use it for other stuff. So that's it. I want to incorporate languages that I love as part of my life.
That's beautiful. What a lovely answer.
Yeah. Top marks for that one.
That was so nice.
I have a dream. I feel really inspiring.
I feel like, I just really enjoy the language learning process. I find it to be a really joyful part of my daily life. And it's great for brain plasticity too. If you're worried about getting dementia, like, language learning is great. It keeps your brain exercised. But that's not my motivation. That's not my why. I really, I guess something I would really like to do in the future would be to be able to read Japanese literature with ease. I realize I can jump in now and, make the most of it, but I would love to easily read Japanese literature. I've always been a very bookish person. I also really used to like traveling when that was a thing that we got to do. So, I have some friends in Japan I would like to see and talk with and connect with. I don't have any lofty aspirations necessarily. I just really, I don't know, I've always been enraptured by the Japanese language. So spending time with it is just a joy. What about you, Chloe?
Well, I was just thinking when you said about the process, because I'm studying several languages. I'm not very good in any of them, but I'm not necessarily worried about reaching fluency in every single language I study, because it's just nice to learn things.
Yeah, it is.
like I'm here for the ride. Like, you know, languages like Spanish, I've started learning Spanish, and there's no kind of real world reason for me personally to know Spanish to a higher level. So I might not ever pass like intermediate stage, but I'm okay with that because I enjoy studying it. I'm having a nice time now as a beginner learning it for the first time. And I don't know, I guess sometimes if people get caught up in goals, and I know I've definitely been guilty of this, you get caught up in goals and it takes the fun out of everything. Like, because I know when like talking about goals and things like that, I always say like start at the end point and work your way backwards. But sometimes if there isn't like a set end point, then why stress about it?
Yeah. I feel like focusing on how you want to feel is also a very valid way to set goals, right? Like, how do you want to feel in your daily life? And what can you do to create that for yourself with your language, right? You don't have to necessarily have fluency or a certain level as your end goal or anything.
At least one fluency, because, or at least the classic style of fluency, because it also depends on which kind of fluency you want to reach. You decide your own fluency. Like you said, for Spanish, you don't, maybe not passing even the go even for the advanced level, just staying intermediate to enjoy the language, to understand and use it fully in a good way, because I think that I'm intermediate at Spanish. I'm not even advanced, but I can use it. I speak it. I just use it. Maybe like for example, one of my friends is Latina and her mom speaks Spanish all the time, and her daughter just speaks Italian, so they just go like that. But I speak Spanish to her mom pretty easily, and I haven't touched it for a while. But it's okay. I make mistakes. I just enjoy using the language. Sometimes I watch videos in Spanish just to refresh it. It's just the joy of using the language without stressing too much. So you define your own fluency, and based on the process, then you decide basically, well, I don't think I need to become academically or maybe business fluent in that language. It's just for enjoying. So who cares about levels and fluency? It's just, or even sometimes maybe you can be academically expert in something, but then, for example, just in a niche, for example, because you're interested, for example, in, I don't know, marketing. So you want to be specialized in marketing because you want to use it even for, you know, better working opportunities, but then you don't care about anything else. Like, for example, becoming technically, academically fluent, like, for example, knowing all that stuff about science. So it just depends on how you want to feel. And based on the image that, or maybe the goal, your dream life, or how you imagine yourself using that language, and you can just like be pretty chill about it, how you want to do that.
Because everyone is different, obviously. Everyone has different goals. Even, you know, someone could be studying 10 languages, but for each language, they have a different end goal. Like, I know someone, and I don't even know how many languages she can like read and understand, because her goal was to read in those languages. So she's not been worried about, you know, learning to speak fluently or anything, as long as she can read it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so goal setting is so personal. Like, it's hard to, like, you know, when people ask for like, oh, how should I set goals or whatever, it's so hard to answer because it's so personal and everyone's situation is so different. It's just, yeah, it's like no two people are the same.
Yeah, I feel like, and the only way to really find out what works for you is to just start trying stuff, right? Like it's so easy to fall into a hole of like watching everyone in the world's YouTube videos about like the best way to set goals or whatever, you know, and like not act like just get overwhelmed essentially and feel like you don't know what to do. But just experimenting with stuff and checking in with yourself frequently to find what works. And you may take something and then put your own twist on it that nobody on YouTube is talking about, right? Like
you can just
create
take
your own path
from all these videos and then language learning and habits setting, like, or process setting, is made of trials and errors and adding your own twist to it, see what works for you or not. But I think that you understand that those kind of videos that you mentioned, Julianne, can be a guide, can be a starting point for experimenting, only after you face the first obstacles with language learning. Because at the beginning, you get overwhelmed, you get too overexcited about, okay, this is the best method. This for this person worked, so this might work for me as well, which is not true. And you face the reality once you try that. And then with time and experience, you realize that that you just need to create your own, and is the perfect method for you, not for anyone else.
Yeah, yeah. Round of applause. Yeah, because it is like, the reason I share so much online is because when I started, I can't remember when I started learning Japanese, it's like 7, maybe even 8 years ago now. And at the time I was like searching on YouTube, like, you know, resource recommendations for Japanese or whatever, or like, and I'd either not find what I was looking for, or I'd find something that I was just like, well, this definitely doesn't apply to me. So I'm kind of like, you know, what I do might not work for anyone else, but if it gives one person a starting point, then, you know, mission accomplished.
100% agree. I think that the real good thing of the study/LangGround community, LangTweet community, there are so many communities now with social medias. I think that is sharing, be able to help others. Because back in the days when we started, because I think that we started learning languages, maybe not that, maybe when this phenomenon wasn't a thing, or at least I started learning Japanese on my own when it was almost 10 years ago, like self-studying a little bit, and consider that I wasn't that fluent in English. So I was just looking for resources that were in Italian. There weren't any, and I was feeling so lost. So I have to say that people that are approaching now languages are really lucky compared to like even 5 years ago us. There was no knowledge. There was even resources for non-English native speakers are almost non-existent, or maybe really bad. I can tell you that because I tried many Italian resources. The quality is terrible. And so even for that, if English is your second language or third, fourth language, if you want to learn any other languages, because resources written in English sometimes are better. And now that you have access to the internet, it's even better because you can understand that you can access like the world basically with English.
Yeah. So I know we all kind of agreed earlier that we very rarely stick to our goals. But what do you do? Like if you set yourself a goal and you think, right, I'm going to do this, and then let's say something out of your control kind of throws you off course, what do you do? Like, do you try and get back on track? Do you change the goal? Do you, like, what do you do?
Well, I guess because most of my language goals are centered around habits, like creating habits for myself, it's easier to not get thrown off, especially because I try to embrace a method of adjusting as needed, like when needed, and not like weeks after it's needed, so I just scale back, like I just actually check in with myself and be like, okay, what's the reality of my situation? How much energy do I actually have? How much time do I actually have? And like, what is actually sustainable for me in terms of these language learning habits that I'm trying to create and, adjust. And that's why a lot of times my goal titles are like kind of vague, because like it allows for more, I've realized that you could just change the name of your goal, right? But like the mind is a tricky thing where it kind of latches onto ideas. So I try to start with something relatively vague or like value based, rather than like, you will do this many times a day or this many times a week or whatever. Like I create more of like an umbrella for options of realities underneath, I guess. And I'm actually right now, I am using a system called habit menus, which I'm actually editing a video on right now, which is amazing for this situation, because it's like, it gives you options every day of choosing either a mini version of your habit or a plus or an elite. It's essentially small, medium, large, right? And you also get to choose from like 3 activities under an umbrella that they all like achieve the same umbrella goal, and you just choose one per day based on your mood, and then you choose a small, medium, large based on how shitty or not shitty your date was, essentially. And so that is super helpful for anybody who's into the like habit system of approaching.
I feel like that's definitely something I need.
It's amazing. It's just so great because like so many habit systems are just like streak based, where like you do this every day no matter what, or else it falls apart. Or they're just rigid, where it's like you have to do this many times. But I feel like self-compassion is kind of baked into the habit menu system, which is chef's kiss. I love it. Anything with self-compassion baked in, sign me up.
Yeah, I think I should. That's why I'm redesigning all my goals, because I rushed them without properly reflecting. And I know what you mean with the menu thing, because last year I was using this habit for studying for university based on my energy levels. So the same thing. And I have to say that sometimes the things that work for me, I forget about them and don't use them, but I should definitely be more conscious and not let me, get trapped in the thing of being productive. Because if you do not take the proper breaks, you lead yourself to burnout. And I have to say, when it comes to my goals, even though, like, for example, talking about my GPT desire, I have to say that I'm pretty conscious about the fact that maybe I will not be ready. So also setting the mindset of it doesn't matter if I pass or fail, or maybe if I pass with the score that I want to, because at least, first of all, I tried and I did a challenge with myself. So it was also an opportunity to get to know myself a little bit better, how I work with my energy levels and stuff like that. So it's also an experience to get to know myself a little bit better. And I still learned, which at the end is the most important thing. You grow no matter what. So and this is a thing that I learned in a couple of years ago, because I had to postpone my bachelor degree and I was feeling really terrible. I was feeling, well, I had to postpone because I cannot deal with everything, but actually it was an external thing that happened that led me to postponing everything, because everything was postponed. So it was not my fault. And I had to recognize that there are things that we can control, things that we cannot control. But with the things that we can control, we just need to find our own balance. And sometimes it's just getting to know ourselves. And this can be applied even to language learning. Getting to know yourself, get to know which kind of maybe goals or habits depending on how you are and how you deal with things. So try and mix some habit setting, but also goal setting, or mix them if they motivate you. You have to experiment in order to understand what is most effective for you.
Something I've been trying to adopt this year is like practice makes progress rather than practice makes perfect. Because the thing with language learning is it's ongoing. Like, I feel like you could pass the highest level proficiency test and there's still going to be things that you don't know. There's still things in, like, I've born and raised in England, and I've been for like 14 years, I exclusively only ever spoke English. Like, I didn't have any exposure to foreign languages. And I still make mistakes in English. Like, there's things that you're just never going to know. And it's kind of accepting that. It's kind of freeing almost. It's like, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. Like, as long as you know a little bit more now than you did like a year ago, then you're heading in the right direction.
As long as you keep showing up and keep your toes in the water, essentially, with breaks. You can take breaks. You can take your toes out for a break. But like, if you keep showing up consistently, you know, you're going to make progress. It's inevitable.
Yeah. And so consistency as well. Like, because I mean, I know I said this earlier, a lot of people in the community are kind of learning languages on the side. And sometimes, you know, you can't study for like an hour or 2 hours a day or whatever it is. Sometimes all you can do is like listen to a podcast on your way to work or whatever. But having some sort of like consistent exposure to the language, like if you listen to, say you've got like a 10-minute bus ride and you listen to a podcast, you know, in a week, that's like nearly an hour worth of language learning.
Yeah.
Like, it's all, I guess this is kind of going back to like habits and things, like little bits that add up and stack up, and it makes such a big difference.
Baby steps have been huge for me. I'm a huge fan of baby steps, and I because I'm such an intense person, and I was very prone to all or nothing thinking, and that's what led me to give up on Japanese so many times, because I would go super hard for like 3 months and then burn out and take like a 3-year break. So I had to, when I came back to Japanese, I was like, this time I'm for real. And I've managed to keep it up for 2 years or whatever, which is huge for me. I had a mantra of consistency over intensity. I had to actively say that to myself, to remind myself, like, you do not have to sit here and do like 3 hours of Japanese. Like, just keep your toes in the water, build up consistency, do it in a sustainable way, and it'll eventually become a like solid foundation, and you'll only be able to do more once it's actually a part of your routine, in my opinion. In my experience.
Yeah. Honestly, we've been talking for like 45 minutes.
We have a question in the chat. I don't know if we're taking questions
yeah
today.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys have been reading the chat.
Yeah.
So there was one about focusing on feelings when you're studying.
Was there?
In my honest opinion, focusing on your feelings works way better than focusing on a particular result or an outcome, because any particular practical result makes you feel in a particular way anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Going back to what you were saying earlier. And then we have a question about motivation. How do you stay motivated on days when language learning gets cumbersome or stressful and you feel you're not making any progress? I feel like I'm not the person to ask, because if I don't want to study, I just won't study.
And that's valid. That's valid. I feel like, I mean, first of all, as I said, I'm an intense person. I work to not be so intense, but my default is intense, right? And my default is to always move goalposts and like compare myself to an unrealistic standard. Like, it's not even a real person I'm comparing myself to, right? It's just like some godly version of myself who can do everything perfectly, which doesn't make any sense. So I have to, lately, I've been letting go of the idea of progress. which I know I'm maybe getting a little crazy right now, but like I actively try not to think about progress. I just think about the showing up and making that enjoyable for myself, because if I'm able to sink my head into something that I'm really enjoying, and if I'm able to do that without guilt, if I'm able to just explore my target language, I'm going to like personally be better off than if I'm sitting and being like, I gotta do my hour, like I gotta learn something today, I gotta be better than I was yesterday, I gotta do my hour of language learning, you know, like that's a bit intense, like that's it's a lot of pressure. And I am learning languages for fun, so I don't need pressure, and I don't thrive under pressure, frankly. So I guess if it's feeling cumbersome or stressful, feel free to take a break and do it guilt-free. Like you don't have to feel bad about taking a break. And when you're a little less stressed, when you're a little calmer, look at why it feels cumbersome. What is it about what you're doing in your target language? Like, why does it feel cumbersome? Can you change what you're doing? Are you not vibing with your methodology? Like, can you make it more fun? Like, just be free to change it up. You know, you don't have to do something that sucks if you don't want to. Probably. I mean, again, I realize some people are in school. I realize some people have to do things that suck sometimes, but if you can make it more enjoyable, I urge you to.
I can give you a tip for all the people that are studying languages at school, because we're all in this together, guys. It happened that I had a very huge burnout with Japanese, and it was right before September's exam, before failing Japanese 1, and a little bit after, because of course I was burned out for all the exams that I had to take previously, and it's difficult, it's tough, because you feel that all the other people are, so your classmates are going and like improving, and you're leaving behind. And especially if you have a good connection with your mates, you feel like you're leaving behind your friends. So it's not, it's sad. It's sad. For example, I felt really bad this time around. And the thing is that take a break. I know this may sound crazy because, you know, you have finals, you have exams, but still take a break. Maybe it can be a week, and do, as Julianne said, reflect. Maybe it's your methodology. Maybe you're not approaching something in a good way. And I noticed that I was too syllabus based, and I was just studying with resources that I hated because I don't like the resources that I'm using at university. And I decided to switch and yes, use that as my main reference and use resources that I like to understand. Then if the example sentences, for example, are the same on the test, I just maybe learn them by heart. So try and understand more or less what you need for the test. And so taking into consideration, study what you need, but at the same time, work on it at your own pace and with the things that you like. For example, I enjoy YouTube videos. So I did lots of immersion with vlogs from Japanese YouTubers. And that really helped me with understanding some patterns that I couldn't understand with the book. So the only thing you have to do is take a small break, maybe because you don't have that much time, unfortunately, by your side, and try make it more enjoyable and detach yourself a little bit from the textbooks. That might be helpful.
Very nice, very good. Right, I think then we will end it there. Unless, and does anyone have any closing comments, closing remarks? No.
I talk way too much.
Just do your best, everybody. It doesn't matter if you have goals or not, or if you hit them or not. Just keep showing up and you'll be all right. Don't stress.
Yeah. It should be fun. It should be
a
fun process, you know. Don't stress yourselves out about it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to everyone who watched us rambling for like 50 minutes. I hope there was something in there that you could take away. And yeah, I guess until next time. So bye. Bye.
Nailed it. Goodbye.